Hey everyone, welcome to another Daily Fantasy Strategy video presented by DailyFantasyWinners. We're calling this the running back roundtable. Nick and I are going to talk about the running backs we like and we dislike for week 3. And how we're going to start is I'm just going to go over my top 3 running backs. And Nick, you're just allowed to give me some feedback, talk about if you agree or disagree, and then we'll go from there, maybe talk about some sleepers as well. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay, so I would say, and we're talking about DraftKings prices here, so I'm just going to do this from a DraftKings vantage point, but I would say that my number 1 running back this week is Melvin Gordon. If you look at Daily Fantasy Winners and we just go to how many points that San Diego is projected to score, it's quite a bit. I think it's 24, maybe 24 and a half. Yeah, 24 and a half. On the road, Indy's D's really banged up, and there's really just no one in the San Diego offense at this point to give it to. Obviously, Travis Benjamin had a good game. They have that young receiver, Tyrell Williams, but they might be without Antonio Gates. Gordon has done really well this season, and it's not surprising. I think San Diego's offensive line is just much improved. And I think this is just a really safe play. I think he's going to get 70 to 75% of snaps. He's going to catch some balls, and he's going against a cake matchup on defense. I really love this play. He's definitely going to be highly owned, but he's definitely one of my top plays.
Yeah, I certainly agree with this one. I mean, the only cause of potential concern here is that the Chargers signed Dexter McCluster, who could play kind of that Danny Woodhead type of role. But the thing is, since they just signed him and he's just getting acclimated to the offense, and granted, it's not the quarterback position, so it's not like, for the Vikings where they brought in Sam Bradford, but he didn't play in the first week. I don't know if it's not that steep of a learning curve. I don't think as much from a quarterback compared to a running back, but nevertheless, I do think McCluster is not going to play a ton of snaps, or not where Danny Woodhead had for his number of snaps have been playing. But no, I'm in complete agreement. I mean, it's obviously a fantastic matchup. Colts defense very banged up, not very good to begin with, anyways. And right now, I mean, Melvin. The most important thing of I think also a lot of people Melvin Gordon wasn't projected to be that great this year, and just generally speaking. And I think what the biggest help is that the San Diego offensive line is healthy now. They were so incredibly banged up last year, and I don't think this is any kind of a fluke that we're seeing here through the first couple of weeks. And I think this is kind of here to stay right now, for at least as long as our O-line stays healthy. It's here to stay for the Chargers running game and Melvin Gordon, at least right now. I might be a little concerned about McCluster moving forward, but for this week, just in particular, I like this matchup for Melvin Gordon.
Yeah, total agreement there. So I'd say my number 2 here is Charles, or who was Rogers referred to as Chuck Sims. I really like the safety of this play because we know they have Jacquizz Rodgers, who's just not very talented, and has actually said himself that he's really just going to be in there to spell Charles Sims when he's tired. So we know Sims, again, like Gordon, is probably going to get 65, 70, maybe even 75% of snaps. He's a talented player who's shown he can play well when given the opportunity. Catches passes, which is great as well. And he's only 4,900, and the Rams front 7 is good, but Tampa Bay is projected to lead in this game. And I think that's correct because the Rams offense cannot move the ball at all against anyone. And I just think he's a real safe play, has good upside, can catch. I really like this as my number 2 pick.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely like Charles Sims as well. I mean, the 2 other running backs that are even in potential consideration are Jacquizz Rodgers and Peyton Barber, the rookie out of Auburn. So I don't think Barber will really be involved much. The way I would kind of look at it is Charles Sims will step into the Doug Martin role, and then Jacquizz Rodgers will step into the Charles Sims role, if you will. And we're talking about percentage of snaps here, not exactly the comparison of players per se. But no, I am expecting the same amount of snaps as you were for Sims. And they're at home, they're against the Rams, and the Rams defense is is, it's decent. I get that, but at the same time, it's like, the Rams defense also really didn't do very well defending San Francisco's running game in week 1, and week 2 we know how bad Seattle's offensive line is, and their running game has not been good in their first couple of weeks of action. So I'm a little skeptical of the Rams defense, quite honestly, in this matchup, and I think Charles Sims is definitely in for a great day.
Yeah, and speaking of that Seattle game, Kristen Michael actually had some good yards per carry in that game, and Rawls was injured. So I don't know if this Rams front seven is going to stymie any running back, really. And I think we're going to talk about Michael a little later. But I'm going to go with my number 3 running back, and that's Theo Riddick. Now, I actually went on FantasyLabs podcast a couple days ago, and I said that my over-under for Riddick was 15. But that was before, and I still probably think actually 14 or 15 is the projection for him, but that was before the head coach of the Lions, Jim Caldwell, said that Riddick was actually the lead guy. And, the Lions have actually been rushing Riddick this year. They've actually been giving him rushes in the red zone, even with playing. And he also has been targeted in the red zone as a pass catcher as well. I think this is a pretty safe play. I think his defense is strong, but especially for cash with some guy who's going to catch 4 or 5 balls and get red zone opportunities. I mean, 4 or 5 balls at the least.
Yep.
I think he's a real safe play, and just obviously a good play for.
Yeah, no, we'll have some disagreements eventually, but not happening yet. Theo Riddick, definitely in agreement here. And the other thing that should be noted, with Dwayne Washington, because he's going to be the other guy getting a little bit of action here. He's the rookie out of Washington. He's a running back that's really different than what Amir Abdullah and Theo Riddick provide. He's, a bigger guy between the tackles, a little bit more like Joique Bell, I guess, what he was for the Lions, just a little bit. I don't know if that's probably not the greatest comparison, but it's the best comparison we can make as far as former Lions running backs go. But no, I think because you take a look at last week, what was it? Theo Riddick had 65% of the snaps, and Abdullah still had 22, when obviously he went down in that game, of course. And then Washington took over for 14. So when you take a look at that 22% for Abdullah, I'm definitely thinking that Riddick's 65 really gets up to 75, maybe it is even possible up to 80%, because the thing we have to consider here also is that, they're playing at Green Bay, and they're going to be, they're a touchdown underdog, and they very well could be playing from behind in this game. And Theo Riddick is definitely a much better pass catcher than Dwayne Washington, and could be used definitely more in the PPR opportunities like you were, referring to for a little bit. So the matchup actually would suggest that maybe just by game flow alone, Riddick's snap count could be through the roof here.
Yeah, and that actually just made something come to mind. Riddick's probably a good person to pair with a Rodgers-Nelson stack or something like that, because he's going to be even better if the game flow is the Lions are playing from behind. But I'm also, I don't know, I'm not convinced the Lions are going to play from behind, but maybe that's another video. But so who are some of your guys that you think are good sleeper running backs, or maybe guys that I just haven't mentioned?
Well, I don't think this guy is too much of a sleeper per se, but I want to put like a little asterisk next to this just because we still have some injury information to figure out, and we may not find this out till game time, whether somebody's active or inactive. But yeah, it is the Seattle situation. If Thomas Rawls is inactive and does not play, I think Christine Michael is in line to get a very high majority of the snaps against San Francisco. And obviously with the San Francisco team, they run a lot of plays, which means the opposition's also going to get a lot of plays in return, especially if the offense is going 3 and out. This game is in Seattle, and the Seattle defense has played fantastically through 2 weeks so far. Granted, going against Miami at home, and then at St. Louis, not maybe necessarily the greatest offenses that they've gone up against, but still, this is San Francisco in Seattle. So I'm certainly Seattle should just get a lot of plays naturally, and Seahawks a big favorite, could see a lot of running plays, and Russell Wilson does say he's feeling a little bit better with his ankle, but even so, I'm just, as a bonus potentially, I don't think Seattle will want to put Wilson in harm's way by any means of the imagination, and I'd say maybe Michael gets a few more touches as a boost from that, just potentially. But
yeah, no, I totally agree. I think people are underrating the San Francisco matchup. I mean, the Eagles last year were one of the best matchups in football, and they should be. The Niners should be an amazing matchup as well. That pace of play on their offense just gives the opposing offense that many more plays. and their defense is not as talented as the Eagles' defense. So I think this is a really awesome matchup. And Seattle's a little weirdly banged up, so I think people are underrating them here. And honestly, for me, like if Michael is the starter, I probably rate him over everyone I just mentioned. I maybe Melvin Gordon's close, but wow, I would be very, very high on him. And the last thing I want to say about this is, luckily for us, actually, this Tampa Bay game is an afternoon game.
Mm-hmm.
So even if we don't have this information, a really smart play, I think, would be play a lot of Michael, and then if Rawls is actually going to play, you can swap in Charles Sims, and I think that's a really effective way to make a safe version of this play.
Yep.
Yeah.
So absolutely. Complete agreement. Yeah.
Okay, here's something we might disagree with. I actually think Jerick McKinnon is a viable play. And Nick and I were yelling at each other about this earlier in the day. But hear me out. I think a lot of people are viewing McKinnon in this way that he was viewed in his rookie season 2 years ago, where Peterson went down and McKinnon stepped in, and they sort of had this 50-50 share with Matt Asiata, was getting all the goal line work, and people were complaining that McKinnon wasn't going to be used. But it's 2 years later now. The coaches have already named McKinnon the starter. And last year, in his limited time, he was really productive. He's a pretty good pass catcher. And yes, this is not a good matchup for Carolina. Yes, the Minnesota offensive line is banged up. But I see this price here at $3,800. And I think, okay, this is a guy who's talented enough to break away for a big run. He's talented enough to catch 3 or 4 balls and maybe break away with a big catch. And I just think at this price, if we get 15 points out of him, and these guys that everyone thinks are going to do well don't break out, he's a viable play that could be a millionaire maker winning play. And I don't think he's going to be used very much. There's just too many running backs to use. So I see you rolling your eyes.
Okay. Okay. Well, here's the thing. You said viable, and is he a viable option? Yes, he is, because he's very cheap. He's got definitely PPR upside, and he's got some upside as far as that goes. As far as a million, like using him in GPPs and like the millionaire maker lineup consideration, yeah, I understand he's going to hit the value, but when I hear 15 to 20 points from McKinnon, I feel like there is an extremely low chance of that. And the reasoning for this is,
I feel like you're just saying that because it's against Carolina's defense.
It's not just that. I really do believe that the fact that they are very likely going to be trailing a bunch in this game and pretty much out of the gate, and just because their offense is going to be terrible, they don't I think everyone's really overrating what happened with Minnesota in week 2 in Sunday Night Football, and they're going to say, okay, Asiata or McKinnon or just McKinnon or whatever is going to be able to step in and do just fine. We have to factor in that losing your left tackle right now going into a week versus the Carolina front seven that's pretty good. That is definitely concerning. And the second thing is I'll say is why, if you with upside of in GPPs, you need somebody that you not necessarily know for a fact, but you have to know he's in strong consideration for goal line work. And I have seen no evidence that they would use McKinnon in the red zone. Or I shouldn't say inside the red zone. That's a little too much. I would say inside the 5 or anything like that. That's going to be Asiata all day. So as far as I'm concerned, I don't want to really rely on a huge upside. If I want to get somebody with massive upside, I would rather have somebody that can get me more touchdowns, because I feel like the chance of McKinnon getting me a touchdown is just one touchdown in the game is 1 in 4 probably. I just don't feel like that's very good.
I would say that's true, but I don't know. I mean, maybe the Vikings offense does well. Carolina's defense has not actually played that great this season so far. I don't know. I mean, I feel like this game goes differently. McKinnon actually, they have Steph Diggs. Obviously, Carolina's going to game plan for Steph Diggs. He's been killing it. I don't know. They have no one else to go to. They have Kyle Rudolph, but those linebackers and safeties for Carolina are quite good. I don't know. I think he's talented. This isn't a stiff, so.
Steph Diggs? We're calling him Steph now?
Yeah, okay.
What's wrong with that? His name's Stephon Diggs. Do people call him Steph? Okay, I was just curious. Okay. I haven't heard that one yet.
We're calling Charles Sims, Chuck Sims. So we
Okay,
just got to
that's
go
fine.
with the nicknames.
Okay, I didn't know that was actually a nickname. If it is, then I'm just completely out of the loop.
I don't. Am I making it up? I don't know.
I don't know.
You can
It
tell
doesn't
me.
matter. Well,
Um, well,
anyways.
let's move on. Another guy at this price point, actually, and we're talked about this before before the video, was Shane Vereen, who
You're
actually
right.
is only 3,700. And so I was looking to the Giants just snap counts and red zone stuff on NFL Savant, and I actually found something really interesting, which is that Vereen actually has all six of the Giants' red zone rushes. That being said, it's only been 2 games. I'm not exactly sure if it's just kind of a game flow thing that he's gotten lucky, but he's definitely a guy they're actually running in the red zone, and he's definitely a pass catcher. The Washington front seven is terrible. Their nose tackle just got injured. I don't even know who they have behind him. I think this is a solid play. Do you agree?
I do, and now my follow-up question is: who do you like more between Shane Vereen and Jarek McKinnon? Because I like Vereen.
Oh,
I'm not like
I like
astronomically
Farine
more.
better as well.
Okay, you do. Okay, all
And
right.
I think actually, I think they'd actually be on the same, but I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm a little sad because on a different week, I think this might be a smarter play to use McKinnon. I might get
Right.
overlooked, but this
Right.
just might not be the week for it. You're right. But yeah,
Yeah.
Vereen I definitely like better from both a projection standpoint, and
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to have that much difference in ownership. So
Yeah, no, that's definitely all fair points. And I'm in complete agreement though as far as Vereen goes, just because it is a good matchup. And right, Rashad Jennings, he is going to play. It sounds like questionable with that thumb injury, but he did mention the injury could linger. Also, he definitely mentioned he's not
yeah,
100%. So it takes one bad hit, and he might come out, and all of a sudden Vereen's ownership, excuse me, his snap count goes up. Certainly, they do have a few other running backs on roster they could go to, but still, I would expect Vereen. And like you said, he's getting goal. There's evidence to show that he's getting red zone work, and this should be a pretty high scoring affair, I would think, between Washington and New York.
right. I
So
mean, this is actually might be a better situation for him that Jennings plays and is ineffective because they just might use him more. If they had a guy like Orleans Darkwa,
right,
Orleans snap count might not actually go up. They just have Darkwa play the Jennings role, but Jennings plays through an injury and just sort of is ineffective. Then that means that opens it up for Vereen a little more.
yeah. And one guy I want to throw in right here, and I know this is another one of our disagreements, but
Well, yeah, let's have this be the last one, and because we got to wind this up. So,
all right, sure,
Sked's last word, and
all
I'll
right.
probably argue.
All right. So we should definitely still pay attention. We're recording this on the Thursday evening after the Thursday night game, so we should pay attention to whatever news comes out on Friday. But I personally do like Jay Ajayi going into to Sunday's contest, even if the snap count is even 50-50, or even if it's like I think it's at worst case scenario for Ajayi 50-50 personally. And the reports are that it's going to be a split workload of some sort. And the way it seems to me is that Ajayi has more experience in the offense, and he's a little bit more of that all-purpose back type of a thing. And when they were talking with the offensive coordinator in one of the articles I was reading earlier, at least, that Ajayi has actually he believes Ajayi is making the most of his opportunities. It's just the offensive line really hasn't been doing their part. And for those people that also think like, oh, the Dolphins rotate like running backs because that's what they've done in the past, we have to remember this is Adam Gase now and a new coaching staff, and Arian Foster got like 80% of the snaps against Seattle in week 1. I'm not saying Ajayi is going to get that many in week 2, but I would say that Ajayi realistically could. I think there is potential for Ajayi to get maybe like 70-75%, but I'm just even saying if he only gets like 50-60% of the snaps, they're going up against the Browns at home, and the Browns defense, in my estimation, is the worst in the NFL this year. They are just so bad. Like the Dolphins, also they're 9.5-point favorites at home. The Browns are on their third string quarterback, a rookie, and Cody Kessler. They're probably going to have a few more 3-and-outs because of that. And Miami is just going to have the ball for a vast majority of the game. And if assuming they're playing from ahead, which is what I would expect, there's just going to be a lot of touches to go around. And so Ajayi right now, I just feel like there's just a ton of things going for him in this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, Miami is favored by 10. Their run point share, according to our tool, close to 10, so there's definitely stuff there. I mean, my issue is they haven't named a starter, and I think the coach has said, I know this article that you're talking about, I read it too, and it seemed like they had a little more confidence in Ajayi than I initially was thinking. but they still haven't named a starter. This guy was inactive in week 1. It's such a good matchup. I totally agree, but I'm just really worried here about him just not really even getting like 40% of snaps because they do have 3 other running backs on the roster. They have 3 other running backs who could conceivably get playing time. And they just don't seem like they're in love with him. Tannehill also has been running in the red zone, actually designed runs. I'm not confident that Ajayi is going to produce that much, even in this amazing matchup. And yeah, I don't know. I especially with so many other running backs, like I'd rather have Varane. I honestly feel like McKinnon has more upside. I like those guys more, and then obviously Charles Sims, Theo Riddick, Christine Michael, Melvin Gordon. I just think we're digging really deep here with the Ajayi. If he was 3,000, I might be on board a lot more on board.
Okay, so he's Jay Ajayi is 4,000, which is he's about this. He's like the slightest bit more expensive than McKinnon and Varane. Yeah. I think he is. Let's put it this way. I think the upside of Ajayi is outstanding, just because there is an outstanding chance he will get the goal line work. They're going to be playing from ahead, and just, I don't know. I'm not going to repeat all the things I just said, but it's like he's at the same price point. I'm not saying he's going to be as good as Melvin Gordon per se, because there is more evidence there. But if we're just going off of the price point here and the value, like if somebody told me right now Ajayi had I would expect in the 15 to 20 carry range, 1 to 2 touchdowns. Like that's really where my expectation is on Ajayi. But again, it is a little bit more of an unknown. I understand that, and I'm not saying everyone should go go crazy and have a ton of exposure to him, because his ownership will not be that high. And most importantly, just keep your ears open for this news coming up tomorrow on Friday, and of course on game day, to what might develop here as far as the situation goes, because it is a little unclear.
Yeah. That's fair. I think McKinnon is so talented. I think he has, even against a bad defense, even with a bad offensive line, I think he has more upside than Ajayi. But maybe I'm underrating Ajayi.
We'll figure out some kind of a gentleman's bet here on the side, with maybe of Ajayi versus McKinnon or something like that.
Why don't we just do it right now?
Okay. What is the?
What are we betting?
Do the So if Ajayi, this is more fantasy points, I am assuming, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. If Ajayi has more fantasy points, you have to buy me well, we've done this before, but I've always enjoyed this. You have to get me some kind of Cleveland Indians sports apparel, and then I have to do the same for the Baltimore Orioles if Jerick McKinnon has more fantasy.
I'm in. I'm so in. Okay, we're booked, baby.
Done.
First bet of the year, and I'm definitely winning. So this has been a great video, I think. We'll see on Sunday. And again, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Please like the video if you did like it, and please hit the subscribe button if you want to see more of these videos. And look for more of these throughout the week. Good luck with making your lineups.
Good luck, everyone.